Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Joseph Ho in Whitehorse. We begin in the Yukon, where two men are facing gun charges after a dramatic arrest in downtown Whitehorse this week. Monday's police operation saw officers, some heavily armed, shut down part of Alexander Street. Jackie Hong has more.
Christopher Munch and Robert Sufsick made brief appearances in territorial court Tuesday afternoon. That was the day after police warned the public to stay away from a stretch in the downtown core. Court documents allege the men were in a truck with 6 guns they were not authorized to possess. They're also accused of improperly storing a rifle at a downtown apartment and having a gun that was obtained by crime. Munch, 47, was under a court order dating back to 2005 that prohibited him from having any firearms. He faces additional charges related to that. He's also accused of breaching another condition that required him to not possess or consume drugs or alcohol. Munch remains in custody and will be back in court next month. 37-year-old Sufsick, meanwhile, was released on bail with the consent of the Crown. His conditions include living with his surety in Watson Lake and not having any weapons. Jackie Hong, CBC News, Whitehorse.
We've just received new information about the arrest from RCMP. Police say the suspects backed into a Porter Creek pawn shop in a stolen vehicle. The guns were believed to have been stolen from the business. Police tracked the suspects downtown where they were arrested. Mounties are asking anyone with information to contact them. The bail hearing for a former Nunavik police officer accused of sexual assault has been delayed to next Wednesday. 49-year-old Charlie Keelan was arrested in Kungik-Sualuchuak by Quebec's police watchdog, the BEI, last weekend. His alleged victims were 4 teenagers in Huaktuk between 2001 and 2006. The BEI believes Keelan had other victims between 1997 and 2020 when he was an officer. Keelan is also a well-known musician. A man accused of an unsolved death in Iqaluit made his first court appearance today. TJ Deer was there and tells us what happened.
Needing a walker to move around, Jopi Utsiktuk appeared in a packed Iqaluit courtroom a day after he was arrested in Ottawa. He's charged with second-degree murder in the death of Mary Ann Birmingham. Birmingham died on May 26, 1986 in Iqaluit. The cold case has caused a lot of pain to her family and the community. In the Iqaluit courtroom, Justice Fayaz Alibay granted a no communications order. This means Utsiktuk cannot contact any prosecution witnesses or the victim's family. He also can't ask others to contact them for him. Utsiktuk's duty counsel said he wants to appear in person for all future hearings as he wants to be involved in the proceedings and understand what's going on. The judge says he can appear in person at his next court appearance on October 29th, but each future appearance will have to be decided on a case-by-case basis. Utsiktuk was on day parole in Ottawa, but remains in custody while in Iqaluit. TJ Deer, CBC News, Iqaluit.
A public hearing about a diamond company's plan to mine underground was supposed to start today. Instead, there has been a dramatic about-face in the project. Burgundy Diamond Mines is pausing its plan to expand its Ekati mine in the Northwest Territories. The company has also sent a critical letter to the territory's premier explaining why. Leni Lamberink brings us the latest.
The plan to mine for diamonds underground is a big deal for Ekati. Burgundy Diamond Mines, which bought the mine last year, previously said its entire business could hinge on the project. The plan was to dig underground at its existing Sable pit. They once hoped to extract another 7 million tons of kimberlite that way. But now Burgundy has withdrawn its application for the project, and it sent this letter to the Wikazi Land and Water Board yesterday, saying it was a difficult decision, but it needs more time to improve the application. The company says the decision comes after reviewing information it's received so far in the application process, including that from the Klichong government. It also sent a separate letter with a more critical tone to the territory's premier on the same day. Burgundy is asking for a number of changes to mining regulations, which it says are getting unnecessarily more onerous. These are some of Burgundy's requests. It wants to have to set aside less money each year for the mine's eventual reclamation. It wants its impact and benefit agreements to be grandfathered in when the government changes the Mineral Resources Act. It also takes aim at environment and water quality regulations for mining in the NWT, acknowledging they're necessary but have become unnecessarily complicated. If all the requests are met, Burgundy says the payoff could be big. It estimates if it can operate another 25 years, the size of the prize could be more than $500 million. But if not, Burgundy appears to threaten to shut Ekati down, saying that if current trends continue, it will need to revisit the viability of the mine and focus its growth elsewhere. Lainey Lambrink, CBC News, Yellowknife.
We requested an interview with Premier R.J. Simpson about this story. A spokesperson says Simpson plans to respond to Burgundy's CEO directly and will not comment until then. They also say the territory is working with regulatory partners to find efficiencies in mining regulations. The Sawtooth Secretariat Annual General Assembly wrapped up in Fort Good Hope today. Charles McNeely was re-elected as chair. That means he will continue to be head of the board. Luke Carroll is in Fort Good Hope for the AGM, and he brings us this story.
Charles McNeely has served in the position for 6 years already and was given a mandate for another 3-year term. He won a majority in the first round of voting with 26 votes, defeated Robert Kelly, who received 0, and former MLA Paulie China, who got 5. While campaigning, McNeely said SSI has accomplished a lot while he served in the role, and that more good things are to come. The AGM is a chance for Sawtooth communities to gather to discuss issues and accomplishments. One of the major things discussed at the event was the impact of Imperial Oil, along with the high cost of living and the need for the Mackenzie Valley Highway, and the impact of drugs on communities. Luke Carroll, CBC News, Fort Good Hope.
In northern Alberta, Indigenous students who allege they were abused at school in the town of Bonnyville are seeking the certification of their class action lawsuit. Madeline Cummings reports.
A proposed class action lawsuit relating to abuse allegations of students in northeastern Alberta is now one step closer to becoming certified. This case dates back years, and it involves more than 200 former students from Kihiwan Cree Nation. They attended École Notre Dame Elementary and High School in the town of Bonnyville between 1966 and 1974. According to court documents, the federal government stopped running its Indian Day School on the reserve in 1964 and started taking students to and from Bonnyville for schooling. The class members alleged they were physically, psychologically, and sexually abused at school. Among the allegations, public whippings, pulling earlobes, haircutting, and prolonged periods of isolation as punishment for misbehavior. None of the claims have been proven in court. Cynthia Iris Youngchief is the proposed representative plaintiff. In her statement of claim, she recalled racism, name-calling, and being hit with a thick leather belt. She's suing the provincial and federal governments, the Lakeland Roman Catholic Separate School Division, and the Diocese of St. Paul. The plaintiff's lawyer says his clients want justice.
I think they've come forward because they think that it's important that their stories be told and documented and be made part of the broader scope of Canadian history.
At the certification hearing here at the St. Paul Courthouse, a judge heard submissions from the parties' lawyers. The federal government has consented to the certification. The diocese isn't taking a position, but the government of Alberta claims it didn't run the school, and that was the school board's responsibility. The province says the federal government funds education for Indigenous students, and Alberta would not be an intermediary. And the school division is also opposing certification in part, saying there wasn't evidence of this high school in Bonnyville. Gray says the case will be advancing because of Canada's consent, but it's up to the judge now to decide on the other defendants, a decision that could come in a few weeks. Madeline Cummings, CBC News, St. Paul, Alberta.
He was completely unaccountable.
Prince Andrew never had somebody say the word no.
The Queen adored him more than anybody else.
This whole story is about the abuse of power.
We've got emails, we've got photographs, we've got witnesses.
Wow.
Ordinary people turn a small investment into big bucks.
I'm in it to win it.
Do you think Mummy and Daddy are going to double their money? That's what I thought.
Why, hello.
You want it? I got it.
This is so cool.
Focus, focus, focus.
Here we go. Oh, imagine how good the TV is gonna look now.
Good God!
This is incredible.
Did you know this?
As if.
Could the pressure be any higher?
every week the issues that matter to Canadians.
Cost of living hurts everybody.
Connecting politics to people.
Win, win, win.
We are not going back.
Sundays, join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
All of this, just single detached homes?
Yes.
What do we know? I think we can explain.
About that with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
It's got to come from the heart.
I will cry. You're so together.
How much more connected do you want to be?
See you there.
Guess what? Pinch me! Yes!
All infants in Nunavut will soon have access to a vaccine against a respiratory syncytial virus. Previously, the territorial government only recommended immunizations for at-risk infants, like those born prematurely. Samuel Watt tells us what led to this decision.
Dr. Anna Banerjee has waited nearly 30 years for this moment, universal access to RSV vaccines for all infants in Nunavut.
This is the most important event in my career, in my life.
That became a mission after her first stint as a rotation doctor in Iqaluit in 1995. She saw firsthand how Nunavut has one of the highest rates of hospitalisations for RSV in the world. Behind that, she says, is a multitude of issues: food insecurity, overcrowding and delays with medevacs.
Every single kid I saw had respiratory illness, and I would see RSV even though it was summer.
In the coming weeks, the Nunavut Health Department will start rolling out a new vaccine called Nucivimab. Quebec and Ontario are also offering it to all infants. And in May, the National Advisory Committee on Immunisation recommended all First Nations, Métis and Inuit infants get that vaccine.
Unlike previous ones, Nucivimab requires only one dose that should last the entire RSV season. Such a vaccine, Ulupika Kilawak says, could have helped her family decades ago when her daughter was flown to Ottawa as a 6-month-old, 9 days in a coma from RSV.
If this vaccine is effective, I think it will be life-saving for a lot of people, especially those babies that are high risk. Even though my daughter was very healthy when she contracted it.
Serving as a reminder, RSV can hit you and your family when you least expect it. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
2 Canadians have been killed in Lebanon, according to their son. Kamal Tabaja tells CBC News his 74-year-old father and 69-year-old mother were killed during an Israeli airstrike. The incident apparently happened in southern Lebanon during fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Chris Brown has the latest on the conflict.
Hezbollah unleashed one of its most fearsome weapons, targeting the Tel Aviv area with a ballistic missile that could have caused immense damage. The white streak in the sky appeared to be Israeli defenses shooting it down, but the fact it was launched at all is significant.
This is the first time in history that Hezbollah terrorists have fired at the city of Tel Aviv.
Hezbollah says it was aiming for the headquarters of Israeli intelligence, the Mossad, and it also fired smaller weapons at northern Israeli communities, wounding 3. Hezbollah has been badly hurt in recent days by Israeli airstrikes that have killed top commanders. Lebanon's health ministry says more than 600 people have been killed and there is chaos throughout the country. Israel says it's trying to force Hezbollah to abandon its support for Hamas so that tens of thousands of Israelis evacuated from northern Israel can return home. But Lebanon's health minister told CBC News that children and women make up most of the victims.
The vast majority, if not all, of the wounded who are being brought to hospitals are civilians.
Hospitals are buckling under the strain, and there are now more than 500,000 people who've been driven from their homes. Some have ended up at a school in Saida, Lebanon's third largest city. We slept on the street for 2 days, said Sheen Hamoud, a mother of 2. This former Israeli intelligence officer says Hezbollah is under pressure to demonstrate its resilience despite its losses, which is why leader Hassan Nasrallah turned to one of its most deadly weapons.
He sent a signal to Israel when he launched one rocket, just signaling that Israel exaggerated and is still signaling that he is measured.
He says the message from Hezbollah may be that there is room for a political deal, which is what multiple reports suggest the U.S., France, and other countries are now urgently trying to broker, which could include Hamas in Gaza as well. Even so, there are indications that yet more escalation may come first. Israel's top military officer told reservists that their possible entry or a ground offensive into Lebanon may be imminent. Chris Brown, CBC News, Haifa.
Rami Kassim grew up in Lebanon but has lived in Yellowknife for 19 years. He's one of the owners of Java Roma Cafe. His father, siblings, and extended family still live in Lebanon. This morning on CBC Radio, Rami spoke with Hillary Bird on The Trailbreaker. Rami shared his concerns about tensions in the region and how his family is coping. Here is part of their conversation.
For now, they're doing okay. It's stressful over there, as you know, as you hear the news. There are lots of destruction. Most of them, they live in the south. And my brothers and sisters, they live in Beirut. Beirut's still safe so far, but that reminds me for in 2006 war, where the whole Lebanon was under destruction.
You grew up in Lebanon and you have experienced war firsthand. Last time you were on the program, you told us about being shot by a sniper as a child during the country's civil war. But since 2006, there has generally been peace in Lebanon. What is it like to see your home country, descend into violence again?
See, it's sad to see any country descend into violence. It's not about my home. It's because people die with no reason. It's politics. I feel sad. We can't just keep watching people dying in this region. This has to stop, and it has to come to an end. Things are escalating day by day, and the whole region could be burned in a day. Now it's between Israel and Lebanon. It was Gaza and Israel. You don't know. Tomorrow it's going to be Syria or Iran, or I don't know where things are going. It's so sad.
There is a fear that this could ultimately turn into a full-blown regional war. How concerned are you that could happen?
Well, I'm so concerned. It's not about only our people there. It's about the rest of the world. Because when this war happens, then we're going to be struggling here even. The whole oil stations and fields will be burnt, and the supply chain will be disrupted. And so it's going to be affect the whole world, not just us.
On that vein, you have several children, some very young.
Yeah.
How do you talk to them about what is happening to their aunts and uncles and cousins?
Well, first I told them what happened with me when I got shot and when I was a little kid, and they feel sad for that, and when they remember, they sadden all the time. And then I explained to them that whatever is happening there, it's gonna come to an end. Regardless of the consequences, we have to stay strong, and we have to keep supporting our families and also pray for them.
The United Nations is meeting this week. We've also heard, as we heard in the news, that Canada is urging restraint, from Israel and what is happening in Lebanon, and that there needs to be a de-escalation. What more, do you want Canada to do?
I want Canada to stop dealing with Israel government, military, disconnect with them because they making genocide in Lebanon and Israel. So it's been 1 year, and by now everybody should understand that whatever happening there is not fair, and also we have to disconnect the ties with them because nobody can stop Israel right now. So Israel is not following any rules of the United Nations. Nothing. So if you did not support them or stop communicating with them, that make them think before they escalate actually to the rest of the region. I don't know about Canada if they send them bombs or something, but I know United States do, and they still supporting them. And if they can, and they want them to stop the war. So stop the war means you stop supporting them and bring them weapons, because it seems like for me it's politics right now, and it's Netanyahu. He just wanted to stay in power, and he could burn the whole world for him to stay in power because of the corruption he did. And he doesn't care. And his people will pay the price, and our people will pay the price, and the whole world pay the price.
What do you and your family need right now from your neighbors and friends here in the north to get through this time?
Prayers. Show compassion. Just show love. Yeah. Only.
The federal Liberals have survived a vote in the House of Commons that threatened to topple their government. The Bloc Québécois and the NDP voted against the non-confidence motion introduced by the Conservatives. But as Kate McKenna reports, the Liberals are now facing a new challenge.
With the first non-confidence vote defeated, the government survives for now. But today, the Bloc Québécois gave an ultimatum and a deadline.
Le Bloc Québécois veut rendre public.
Leader Yves-François Blanchet says the government must pass 2 bills by October 29th or risk being defeated.
What we are proposing is good for retired persons in Quebec, but also in Canada. It's good for milk and eggs and poultry product producer in Quebec, but also in Canada.
The bloc bills would boost old age security for younger seniors and shield dairy, egg, and poultry farmers from future losses in trade negotiations. The bills have both been described as costly and controversial.
I think every proposal that's made, is something that is considered. But I don't think it's helpful to issue ultimatums. I think that what is helpful is to demonstrate that Parliament is focused on Canadians and not politics.
Now that the NDP's deal with the Liberals is over, the Conservatives are using every possible opportunity to try to topple the government.
Today, we'll vote to trigger a carbon tax election.
The bloc holds the balance of power, able to keep the government afloat, and it's flexing its muscles.
What we realize right now is that the Bloc Québécois did nothing for Quebecers in the last 2 years, and now they are scrambling to find a way to be relevant and to provide some record.
But even if the Bloc Québécois does vote against the government after its self-imposed deadline, it still needs the support of the NDP to trigger an election. And the NDP says it's taking votes on a case-by-case basis. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some Yukoners will be hearing that sound this week. That is a Yukon government biologist demonstrating an elk bugle. The Fish and Wildlife Branch is wrapping up a series of events that teach the public about nature. Tomorrow night, experts will drive people out to the Takini Valley to call the elk.
90% of the time we have been able to hear an elk call, and that's just a really magical moment when we're all standing in the woods. It's calm, it's sunset, and then this squealing pig noise carries over the wind and everyone gets really excited because it's not a sound you would expect to hear in the woods. And if you don't know what it is, it would be terrifying. So people are excited to hear it and learn what that is and know what's out there.
Elk were introduced to the Yukon decades ago to relieve hunting pressure on other species. There are roughly 300 of them living between Haines Junction, Whitehorse, and Carmacks. That's all the time we have for Northbeat tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. I'm Joseph Ho. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.
Maybe you were subconsciously worried about our little threesome?
Ew! No, I don't mean it in that same way.
You guys can move out and get an apartment together when I'm gone.
Wait, did you mean it? Mom!
You're good thieves. Best in town. Thank you. It is a small town.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes your world.
All right.
Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
Dropping the 8 now. We are just approaching Gaza.
With local CBC Radio 1 Live to connect us closer to home. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want, where you want. On the CBC News app. Download for free.
Oh, imagine how good the TV is gonna look now. And spoiler alert.
No! Don't panic.
Don't panic.
Cut to. Well, we're not cutting to.
Which ladies want to watch?
Look out! It's drama.
Oh.
I'm ready for it. Hi, friends. Guess what? Pinch me. Ooh. Mind blown. Yes!
I'm not a delicate lady.
I don't know who needs to hear this.
I had a man do an impression of me recently, and he lowered his voice, so...
What's going on upstairs for them?
I'm sorry.
Nailed it.
Your sister.
She tried to kill herself.
Mom showed me your suicide note.
Thank you for putting me on it. I was like 2/3 down the list. Feels like I was an afterthought. I just didn't want it to go to your head.
Every week, the issues that matter to Canadians.
Cost of living hurts everybody.
Connecting politics to people.
We are not going back.
Join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
Where we're all about explaining and expanding.
News you can trust, when you want, where you want. Download the free CBC News app.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.